So within musical notation, we have symbols that can alter our pitches. We call these symbols accidentals. Now that term always bothered me because it almost sounds like the pitch is changing by happenstance or by mistake, and that's not what's happening at all. Accidentals are ways that composers can actually use specific variety of pitches. And in the most conventional sense, accidentals are sharps and flats, and they're basically our black keys on the musical keyboard, which we'll get into that in a little bit. But one of the things that I want to go through before we start here is once again, we're focused on how musicians can notate musical ideas. That's our essential question. How are we using the symbols of music to construct different pitch ideas that we want to use? And this video is talking about using specifically, our accidentals. Now, what we're looking at in terms of what I want you to be able to know at the end of this video is I want you to describe how sharps and flats can alter our musical pitches. The other thing is that I want you to recognize enharmonics. And enharmonics are, multiple ways that we can use to describe the same heard note. Something can be simultaneously referred to as a B flat and also an A sharp, and we'll get into that a little bit as this video progresses. So these two symbols are really kind of the bread and butter accidentals that we're going to use, a flat and a sharp. And a flat is going to lower a musical pitch by 1/2 step, and a sharp is going to raise a musical pitch by 1/2 step. The family of accidentals is much larger than that, as you can see here. We also have our double flat, which is similar to a flat, but now that is going to lower a pitch by another 1/2 step, right? So we can lower by 2/2 steps for a double flat. We've already talked about the flat. Natural just simply means that it's going to cancel out any of these other accidentals. Okay, we have our sharp, which obviously raises by a 1/2 step, but then we have a double sharp, which is going to raise by 2/2 steps or a whole step. This is our entire family of accidentals that we would use within music. Now, when I look to see how this might kind of lay out on a musical keyboard, I'm going to be looking at something like this. You can see that for each black key, you're actually kind of seeing a convergence of two musical pitches. And let's look from left to right. The very first black key that we see is C raised to C sharp, but it's also D lowered to D flat. And this is what's known as an enharmonic. Okay, it is one of those pitches that basically can go by two different labels. C sharp and D flat are known as enharmonics. We can see the exact same thing on every other black key on the keyboard. The next one over is simultaneously D raised to D sharp and E lowered to E flat. Those are enharmonics. But if I look at the points of intersection on the keyboard where there is not a black key between the two white keys, this is where things get really, really interesting because I still have enharmonics. It just doesn't happen to be falling on a black key. So here we can have like E is being raised to the next white key, right? That's still a 1/2 step, E to E sharp, right? And then we can also have F coming down to F flat. So E and F flat are actually enharmonics. And E sharp and F are also enharmonics. That takes place basically in two parts of the keyboard, right? That movement from E to F, because there's no black key there, but then also the movement from B to C, which in this graphic specifically, right, you're not seeing, if there was one more white key on this graph on the right-hand side, it would actually be a C, right? So that moves from B to C. That can also be B sharp, right? So that's kind of how that enharmonic equivalent works as far as that's concerned. What you need to know is that our accidentals are used to alter our musical pitches, right? So that's basically how we get our sharps and flats in music. And as we start to talk about 1/2 steps, which is that smallest building block of music, we're going to be using sharps and flats a lot.